Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking at something, well, maybe a bit unexpected. Solar energy thriving in Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
Right. Iowa. Not the first place you think of for sunshine, maybe.
Exactly. You wonder about the variable weather. And there's this idea floating around about rain-powered solar panels.
Which, let's be clear, isn't really a thing.
Huh.
But that's part of what's interesting here.
Yeah. So we're digging into how solar actually does work well there, despite the challenges. Some pretty clever adaptations involved.
And the mission really is to understand that resilience. How does the tech hold up when conditions aren't perfect? Cedar Rapids is a great case study. They've actually achieved SolSmart Gold status.
SolSmart Gold, what does that mean exactly?
It basically means the city has made it significantly easier, streamlined the process for homes and businesses to adopt solar.
Ah,
And they've got, what, over 1.6 megawatts installed capacity now across city and residential systems. So yeah, there are lessons here for anyone interested in how renewables can be resilient.
okay, so let's get into the how. What's driving this adoption in Cedar Rapids? You mentioned it's not always sunny.
Well, a big piece of the puzzle is actually economics. Simple as that sometimes.
Money talks, right?
It does. Their electricity rates are surprisingly high, about 20% higher than the Iowa average and maybe 9% higher than the national average.
Wow, okay, so solar starts looking pretty good pretty quickly then.
Exactly. You run the numbers on, say, a typical 5-kilowatt system. You could be looking at savings around $20,000 over 20 years.
20,000, that's substantial.
It is, and the payback period averages around 12 to 13 years. So financially, it just makes a lot of sense for people there.
Right, that definitely explains the motivation. But back to the weather. Let's tackle that rain idea you mentioned.
Okay, yeah. So modern panels are smart. They don't just need blazing direct sun. They use indirect light, too.
So they still work when it's cloudy or raining.
They do, yeah. Production drops, obviously, but they don't just switch off. But here's the really interesting part about the rain. It actually cleans the panels, washes off the dust, the pollen, all that stuff that accumulates.
Wait, so the rain helps?
In the long run, yes, it helps maintain their efficiency over time. Less need for manual cleaning. Think of it like a free, natural wash.
Huh. Nature's little maintenance helper. That's clever.
It is. So a temporary dip in production, but a long-term efficiency boost.
Okay, that makes sense for rain. But Iowa also gets some serious wind, doesn't it? I remember hearing about that big derecho in 2020.
Oh, absolutely. Wind is a big factor. Regular gusts of, 20 to 35 miles per hour are common. And yes, events like the 2020 derecho were devastating.
So how do solar panels, especially roof-mounted ones, stand up to that kind of force? Are the mounting systems strong enough?
That's a critical design element. And you have to remember, Iowa is a leader in wind power. They get like 62% of their electricity from wind turbines.
Right, so they know how to handle wind.
They do. The mounting systems for solar have to meet rigorous engineering standards precisely because of that wind. They're designed to handle those typical gusts. The derecho certainly tested infrastructure, but it reinforces the need for those robust standards.
And are there different types of solar setups that handle weather differently?
Yeah, there are variations. Standard fixed systems are common, built strong. Then you have microinverter systems where each panel optimizes individually. That's good for cloudy days, maximizing output when shade hits part of the array.
Okay.
And for bigger projects, sometimes tracking systems are used, which follow the sun. They can sometimes adjust for wind too, though durability is always key. And of course, you have seasonal things like snow in winter needing clearing sometimes, while summer's the peak production time.
This is all pretty practical stuff, but you mentioned Cedar Rapids is also doing some more cutting-edge things, agrivoltaics.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's really fascinating. Alliant Energy has this big research project, about 1.35 megawatts, combining solar panels and farming on the same land.
Solar panels and crops. How does that work?
Well, the result after just the first year were pretty amazing. They found most crops they tested, especially things like summer squash and peppers, actually did better with the partial shade from the panels.
Better, you'd think they'd want full sun.
You might think, but the shade protected them from the really intense heat. They thrived. And yet this is a weird side benefit: Japanese beetles, a common pest there.
Yeah.
They seem to avoid the plants growing under and near the panels.
Seriously, solar panels is pest control.
Apparently, an unexpected bonus. And importantly, they found that standard off-the-shelf solar panel designs were just fine in this setup. No need for super specialized, expensive equipment. It just shows how adaptable solar can be.
So pulling this all together, Cedar Rapids seems to show that solar isn't just possible in places with tricky weather. It can actually be really smart and cost-effective.
Exactly. The high electricity costs provide the incentive, and then the technology combined with some of these unexpected natural benefits like the rain cleaning. It just works.
It demonstrates that resilience isn't only about building stronger systems, but maybe also about finding advantages in the conditions you face.
Well said. And it leads to a bigger thought, doesn't it? When you see innovations like agrivoltaics working, it makes you wonder, how else might energy production start to merge with fields we usually think of as separate, like agriculture? What other combined possibilities could that unlock for, a more resilient future overall? Something to think about.